What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we got a community update from Battlefield outlining some of the things we can expect in a couple weeks time with the big Wake Island update, or the Top Gun update as they're calling it, since they're doing the Top Gun crossover. And I wanted to go through this information and just share my thoughts as we go. So diving right in, this is coming on August 18th, and this update is going to be featuring the return of Wake Island, although it's not going to be a one-to-one remake of Wake Island. It is once again going to be a reimagining of it. And they mention it's going to have a stronger focus on naval warfare and large-scale conflict across land, air, and sea. And there's going to be carrier-based HQs that anchor both sides of the battle. Now, in addition to that, we're going to be getting a couple modes, and the first one I'm really excited to try out. This one's called Carrier Strike. And with this, each team has an aircraft carrier, and you fight to destroy the enemy team's carrier. So with this, they say you capture key sectors across the island, deploy vehicles, and create openings for pilots to strike deeper into enemy territory. And then as the carrier takes damage, the battle will escalate with a final objective inside the vessel, turning the match into one last coordinated assault to finish the fight. This one sounds really cool and just a nice change of pace away from the standard modes in the game. And I like the fact that it looks like it is actually going to be a coordinated push between all of the different playstyles. Like, it looks like it's going to focus a lot on that aerial combat earlier on in the match, but at the end, for that final push, it looks like infantry is going to have to get in there and do work to finish things off. And that sounds like a lot of fun, so I am looking forward to that. Additionally, in RedSec, there is going to be a new gauntlet mission added, and this one's called Fighter Sweep. And with it, it says, take down enemy jets and destroy stockpiles placed across the play space to build your team's score. Challenge rivals in a dogfight, dive on objectives, or break away under pressure while your squad looks for the next opportunity to take the lead. So both of these modes are tied in with the Top Gun collaboration, so there's going to be quite a bit of emphasis on that jet combat. And in addition to that, we are going to be getting two new jets in the game. We've got the FA-81F Super Spectre and the F-74A Sea Cat. So those are the F-18 and the F-14 Tomcat. And we've already seen those highlighted in the trailer for Season 4 in the past. But then on top of that, we're getting the new sniper rifle, the Interdictor. And for RedSec, they're adding a new point of interest, which is the USS Grant. So a playable aircraft carrier is going to be appearing on the coast. And that's pretty much it for the new content additions with this update. However, we're also getting some gameplay changes here. And the first thing on this list is something I'm really happy to see, probably more so than most people here. This is, they're adding an aim down sight dispersion crosshair, so you can see in real time how much spread you are experiencing while aiming down sight, or how inaccurate your gun is. And this is something I wish we would have had at the launch of the game. It would have made my job so much easier, because one of the big issues I have with spread is the fact that you never really know exactly how much spread you are currently dealing with a gun, because there's no visual indicators outside of your tracers, but that only lets you know so much because the tracers are randomized within a zone. So it doesn't tell you exactly how big your spread is. You'll just see sometimes you have a tracer that comes sideways out of your barrel for some reason. And of course, while you can get a feel for how much spread your gun with your particular setup has, and you can get a feel for how much your spread will increase with movement or while firing full auto for long periods of time, at the end of the day, if you're trying to do very detailed comparisons with various attachments or between weapons, there was no perfect way to do this in-game previously, and you had to rely on pure feel or inconsistent testing methods, or you had to wait for data miners to find out the stats and share the actual values with you. So it's nice to see that they're finally just including this as a feature in the game, and they said by default, this will be enabled in the firing range only. However, there will be options to turn it off entirely. If you don't want to see it in the firing range, you can turn that off. That's totally fine. And there's also an option if you want it to show in actual multiplayer matches, you will have that ability as well by just toggling a setting on. And on top of that, they did say that we can adjust the opacity as well as the color options for that indicator, which I think will make this a lot more attractive for a lot of people as well, because I don't really want to see like this big indicator in game while I'm aiming down sight and shooting at my target. I don't want to see those indicators like potentially getting in the way. But if I can make it so it's just a very subtle indicator that lets me know what my spread is at without blocking my target at all, like just having it super low opacity, then there's a much better chance that I will actually use this in the multiplayer experience. But I'll have to see what it all looks like once we actually get our hands on the game. Perhaps I will just be using it for testing purposes in the firing range, for instance, and when I'm doing my comparisons and my gun guides, and then I'll just have it off in-game. Because at the end of the day, once you do get a pretty good feel for it with a particular weapon and attachment combination, I don't think most players really need that indicator in the actual match itself. But I think it's great that we're at least going to have the option now. That has always been one of my criticisms of how they handle spread in Battlefield is, unlike many other games like Fortnite, for instance, that have that aim down sight spread, there's no indicator letting you know exactly what your spread is going to be doing, and you do have to just rely on experience, but not anymore if you choose. As for the next gameplay improvement here, this new update will be highlighting airplane control assist, which is a setting that's designed to help players get comfortable with the skies and a better understanding of the control options available to them. And perhaps that's something I'll have to dive into a little bit because I still have just barely piloted anything in Battlefield. I'm primarily interested in infantry combat, but with this update, maybe I should give the jets a bit more of a shot. And then finally, for this particular section of the post, they just talked about gunplay, but this was more so just saying thanks for the feedback on time to kill versus time to die. They're seeing some metrics that are showing some positive improvements from the Phase 3 Season 3 update that we got to our gunplay, and they're going to be continuing to evaluate and explore balance adjustments. So not really any concrete news or information on what we can expect to change there. And it's a similar story with their matchmaking section, which is the next part here. They said they recently made playlist adjustments across all regions to help matchmaking health, queue times, and match quality in the most active modes. Unfortunately, this also meant removing the rush game mode from the game, which there's obviously been some backlash against that. But aside from that, they basically just said they're continuing to read our concerns and feedback around matchmaking, and they're planning to discuss matchmaking in more detail, where they'll go deeper into their goals, what they're seeing in the data, and where further improvements can be made. So again, no concrete information on changes we can expect to see going forward, just they're planning on talking about it. Now, of course, a huge factor that ties heavily in with this is the fact that we are finally going to be getting a proper server browser toward the end of Season 5, which at this point, it's looking like there may even be some delays. I've been seeing some rumblings about that at least, so we might not even see this server browser by the end of this year. Time will tell on that. And then finally, there were just some updates for Portal. I'm not going to get into too many of the weeds with that since most people don't really interact with Portal outside of maybe using a training experience or something or a firing range experience. But they are going to be adding Suro Reef to that with the update. Wake Island will also be available for verified experiences later in the season. And they are adding custom lobbies and spectator mode with the update on August 18th through Battlefield Labs in Live. And there we go. That's pretty much it. That is going to wrap it up for this community update that we got. Overall, not a whole lot of brand new information. Like, we already knew the content we were expecting to see. They just sort of shed a little bit more light on it there. For many of those sections, they're basically just saying things are looking good, or we're continuing to monitor feedback, but we're not actually changing anything right now. As I said, the main thing that I'm excited to see with this update is the fact that we're getting that aim down sight spread indicator in-game. I think that's going to be very useful, at least for some people. And this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about how this Top Gun update on August 18th appears to be shaping up based on what we know so far? Are you guys excited for it? Maybe not. And also, I'm very curious to know if you're planning on using that new spread indicator in actual matches. Do you think you'll be turning that on? Or will you be keeping that disabled and just going more so based on feel and experience? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.